What is going on, guys? It's Negro Shot here, and today I'm going to be giving you guys a review for Batman versus Superman. So this video will be both a sort of a review and also a discussion. I'll try to keep the spoilers to a minimum for like the first part of the review. I'll probably have a spoiler section for the review. I'll probably say when I'm going to be getting into spoilers. I'll probably announce it so that if you haven't seen a movie, you'll be able to click off the video and you won't be spoiled. So, first part of this review, I'm just going to be talking about. I'm gonna try to really just talk about the movie in general. Probably start off by talking about the cast of the movie. But I'm not going to try to get into spoilers for the first part of this review. So, getting into the cast of the movie and really how each actor did in their performance, I just want to go ahead and start off with Ben Affleck because, as most of you guys know, like pretty much the entire internet was against Ben Affleck being Batman. And I'm one of those people that I've seen like a few movies with Ben Affleck in it, and yeah, Daredevil. People say Daredevil wasn't a good movie, and back in the day, I was like what 10 or I want to say I was like 10 or 11 when I saw that movie, so I thought that movie was great. But obviously, I see how bad the movie is now. Now that I'm older, I see how bad that movie was. But he's gotten a lot better. I mean, if you haven't seen The Town, I thought The Town was a good movie. The movie Argo, a lot of people said that Argo was a great movie. I thought it was overrated, but I thought he did a decent job in that. He's definitely improved. Like if you've seen some of his his old movies that he did, and like there's these scenes where he tries to be intimidating and he can't pull it off. But in this, I will say that he's decent as Batman, and he's decent as Bruce Wayne. Like he gets the job done. I still think Christian Bale. I like his Batman better. Well, I like his Bruce Wayne better, and I kind of do like Christian Bale's Batman better, only because like the voice modulator. I think the voice modulator, while it's a cool idea, and I think this might just be. I think that I think the problem that I had with the voice modulator really had something to do with like whoever edited the video and whoever edited the movie and everything. Like the music was so loud at times that like I couldn't tell what Batman was saying. Like that one line where he's like, "You're not brave, men are brave." But I did like the first time that I watched the movie, because I've seen the movie twice. The first time I watched it, I did not understand a word this dude said. And it's other scenes that he was Batman in the movie where I was like, what the heck did he just say? Pronunciate. Or you're going to have to turn the volume of this music down because it's too loud and I can't understand what Batman was saying. And another thing I got to say, while I did like, I think Ben Affleck did a good job as Bruce Wayne more than he did as Batman. And this might just be it might be because of the way that the movie was written and everything. Because it seems like when he's Batman in this movie, it doesn't seem like he's a human being anymore. Like he doesn't seem like a actual human being as soon as he turns into Batman. He's like using these macho one-liners and stuff like, ah, tell me, do you bleed? You will. Like he doesn't feel human when he turns into Batman. And I know that kind of might just sound strange to you guys, but it's just something about his lines when he turns into Batman. It's like he loses all logic when he turns into Batman, especially when he confronts when he confronts Superman for the first time, and even his interactions throughout with Clark Kent and with Superman. But overall, Ben Affleck, I thought he did a decent job. Henry Cavill, a lot of people, a lot of people had a sort of mixed response to his performance. I've heard a lot of people said that he was very wooden in the movie. He was very stoic, but I don't think that I don't think personally. I don't think that was the case. I thought he did a decent job. I thought he did like in Man of Steel. I thought he was excellent as Superman. Like he's my definitive Superman. I love that interpretation of Superman from Man of Steel. I think Man of Steel was a great movie. And coming into this movie, well, I think he did. I think he did. I don't want to say he did excellent, but he did better than Ben Affleck. I would say, but I don't think it's his fault that he kind of comes off as moody and kind of depressed all the time because I think it's again it's the way his character was written and for this storyline that they went with because he's conflicted throughout the entire movie. He's conflicted as to whether he should even keep trying to save human beings and stuff because it's like the world around him is confused with his position, whether Superman should really be saving people or whether he's actually doing right. He's actually making a difference in the world, and he's just conflicted the entire movie. And then you have people that are hating on him, and there's some people that love him, and he's just conflicted. So the whole time when like that one scene that you guys have seen in the trailer where like everyone's reaching out to him at some Mexican holiday. I think it's like a Mexican holiday. I forgot the name of it. It's I think it was like the Day of the Saints or something like that. But everyone is reaching out to him in the scene, and he just looks at the camera. And I heard someone say that he looked constipated in one scene, and in that scene, when I saw it the first time, it's like, yeah, he does. He looked kind of constipated in that scene. Like it's just certain, like his expressions in this movie. I will say he was kind of moody in this movie, but I think he just had to be. So I wouldn't really fault Henry Cavill his performance in this movie because of again the storyline and how his character was written and everything. But overall, I thought he did a decent job. And now I really got to point out Lex Luthor because that was the wild card for everybody. Everybody wanted Bryan Cranston as Lex Luthor. And granted, even though this Lex Luthor in the movie is like, he's a different character because he's technically Lex Luthor's son. And I guess they could have actually had Bryan Cranston in the movie if Lex Luthor if Lex Luthor's father wasn't, dead because they mentioned, well, actually, he mentioned his father being dead to the senator in the movie, and it's not even spoilers, I believe they had an interview. It was either Zack Snyder or somebody talked about it before the movie came out. So overall, when I first saw, I think it was like the second or third trailer that like everybody hated, and they showed the scene where like he's introducing himself to both Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent, and there's a lot of people that just got Riddler vibes from him. There was like either he's trying to be like the Joker, either he's trying to be like the Joker, or he just comes off as like a Jim Carrey Riddler. And I've said this to multiple people that his character almost feels like they took the Riddler, they took the Joker, and they took a little bit of just a tiny smidget of the Lex Luthor character and just made it into one character. And honestly, I did not like it. I wanted to, I was open to, I was open to him being Lex Luthor. I was open to him because here's the thing. Jesse Eisenberg, throughout his career, after the Zombieland, even though I hated the Social Network, but after Zombieland, I was like, you know what? I want to see him branch out and take on other roles because I don't think he always has to play this sort of nerdy character or like the same sort of archetypes, the same sort of characters. I think he can do more. And when he was in Now You See Me, I definitely thought that was going to be a change of pace for him. And seeing him in this movie, it's just like I was just disappointed. I was very disappointed in his character. His character almost kind of derails the whole movie and sort of it doesn't exactly ruin the tone of this movie because I know a lot of people were afraid that this character, the way that the character was written, the way that he actually, the way that Jesse Eisenberg performs in this movie was gonna set off the tone of this movie. But it's more like he was just annoying, and I was afraid that he was going to be annoying. That was a lot of people's reservations for this movie when they saw that he was casted like, and that they saw that trailer that I was talking about, was that Jesse Eisenberg is about to screw up this movie. He's about to be like the Riddler. He's about to just make this movie kind of unwatchable. And in certain scenes, he really does. I know I think there's like a small minority that actually dug his character, but overall for me, he just did not do it. And especially that final scene that I'm not going to spoil. I'm going to go ahead and leave my thoughts about the final scene for later in this review, in this discussion. But really, I thought he just did an awful job. It's like his character just had to keep spouting all these sort of philosophical type of dialogue. Like he just kept spouting a lot of philosophical stuff about gods and men. Like that one line he says, where like he says to the senator, and this again not a spoiler. He says, "Gods don't come from." He said something like, "The devils don't come from the hell beneath us. They come from the skies above." And then they show that picture that he has. That I guess the picture was like his father, and they showed a picture of like the devil up top, and then God from above. Well, God from above, devil up top. I said that wrong, but he does end up, switching the picture by the end of the movie. But my whole consensus for Jesse Eisenberg and his performance, I thought he was just it was a total miscast. Total miscast. They should have cast Bryan Cranston. And then, you know what? If you wanted Jesse Eisenberg in the movie, why not just let him be the Riddler? Why not just let him be the Riddler? And why not make this, instead of Batman versus Superman, the world's finest? I mean, Batman is supposed to be a detective. I mean, it would have fit. But overall, Jesse Eisenberg, I thought he did a terrible job. I understood what they were trying to do with his character for the most part. They wanted him to again be sort of crazy like the Joker, but they also wanted him. I believe they wanted him to sort of be this methodical sort of manipulator, and the way that Lex Luthor manipulates Batman and Superman into fighting each other, I did not think they executed that well, and I'll get into that later. But let's get into another cast member. Well, actually, two. I'll say Amy Adams and what's his name? Lawrence Fishburne did a great job in this movie. However, and I don't put this on Amy Adams. Obviously, this is how the movie was written. But her character is a freaking damsel in distress. And normally I'm not one of those people that are like that feel like they have to have a strong female character and all females can't be damsels in distress and stuff like that. I'm used to that in certain movies. I mean, heck, I've I sat through all of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and like that's really all Mary Jane was. And I know that bugged a lot of people, but honestly, I think that's really how the character has always been perceived. Like even well, for me personally, because the only Superman sort of things that I've watched involving Superman as a child was like the animated series, and then like Justice League, and Lois never once came off to me as a strong female character. So for her to be the damsel in distress in this movie, I was okay with that, but then it's like Superman is able to like find her wherever she is, especially one of these scenes where like she's halfway around the world and he's able to, I guess, hear her heartbeat or whatever, or hear her screaming at certain parts. Now I want to get into my general thoughts about this movie as a whole. Again, I'm not going to try to spoil anything for you guys, but I will say that this movie has a lot of plot points. Like I said before, it's a lot of moving parts. This movie is generally like it's kind of like three movies into one. You got a movie that's trying to introduce the Justice League. There's the it's basically a Batman origin story all over again. Even though they gave you a little bit of his origin in the beginning with his parents dying, and then it's also a sequel to Man of Steel. And I'll say that this movie has it definitely has its problems. As much as I enjoyed it and I thought it was okay, it has problems. It has Fantastic Four problems, and it also has Iron Man 2 problems. It has Iron Man 2 problems in the fact that it just feels the way it comes off. It comes off as just like a movie that's trying to introduce the Justice League immediately. Just like it feels like a stopgap movie almost. Like that's what Iron Man 2 kind of felt like to me. And it felt like if I'm going to compare this movie to Iron Man 2, I would say that Iron Man 2 did a better job of like just like weaving in elements for the Avengers into its story and making it feel organic and natural. Whereas in Batman versus Superman, it kind of feels like the way that the execution of the way that they tried to introduce the Justice League, they tried to introduce Cyborg and Flash and everybody. I thought the way they tried to go about doing this was just horrible. And I'm not going to spoil the way that they're trying to, well, the way that Zack Snyder went about introducing the Justice League in this movie. I'm not going to try to spoil it right now, but I'll just say that the way that they tried to introduce the Justice League in this movie was retarded. And then another problem, like I said, this movie has Fantastic Four problems, where like the people in the editing room, they are garbage at editing this movie. Like they are garbage at editing or something. And maybe this has a lot to do. Maybe the problems that this movie has when it comes to transitioning from scene to scene. Maybe that has a lot to do with the fact that like a large portion of this movie, at least 30 minutes of this movie, has been cut out because Warner Brothers wanted Zack Snyder to basically like cut the movie down from like 3 hours to like 2 hours and 30 minutes, I believe. But this movie has Fantastic Four problems in that the way each scene is like constructed, where like you'll go from like Bruce Wayne doing something at a computer to Lex Luthor talking to a senator, and it's just jarring the way that these scenes have been transitioned from one to another. Like it's not a smooth transition from scene to scene is what I'm trying to say. Like when I was first watching this movie for like the first time, it kind of took me out of it. Well, not took me out of it, but it was kind of confusing. It's like how do we get from this scene to this scene? Because there's also dream sequences in this movie, and I think, like I said earlier, it feels like if I'm comparing this to Iron Man 2, it's like the setup for the Avengers was more was like it was more organic in the Iron Man 2 movie than the setup for the Justice League, where like you have these dream sequences that are basically set up for the Justice League, and like it kind of stops the movie. Like there's two problems with what they did with the dream sequences. It stops the movie, and then like the transitioning into these dream sequences and into these different scenes, not just the dream sequences, but obviously other scenes. It just doesn't feel right. It feels, it's jarring. It's just out of nowhere. It's like we just cut from this scene to this scene, and there's no clear structure. There's no point A to B. It's like you jump from point A to C or point B to E. There's like no clear structure in the way that they transition from scene to scene. And again, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that they edited out a lot of scenes. Like we just got a deleted scene last week that they took out of the movie that I think would have really made this movie a lot stronger. And we'll see how this movie fares once we get like the director's cut, which has like the 3 hours of it. It has a lot of the deleted scenes in it on the DVD, but the theatrical cut, it definitely has problems when it comes to editing and transitioning from scene to scene. And like I said, execution of the Justice League, trying to introduce these characters. This is why this movie, this is why people said that this movie kind of feels like Warner Brothers trying to rush to the Justice League, because the way that they tried to introduce the Justice League in this movie, I just I did not like it. Did not like it. But getting away from those two negative points, I will say that I like the fact that I like how Zack Snyder he shot these action scenes. I will say the action scenes in this movie, everything in this movie, like especially when I was watching it for the second time, it really feels like you're watching a comic book. So I'll say that as one of the movie's positives is that once you see these iconic characters on the screen, once you see Wonder Woman suit up for the first time, and you see her fighting alongside Batman and Superman, once you see uh, Batman and Superman on screen together and these different scenes, it just feels like he just ripped it straight from the comic books, and the whole thing is stylish, and that is Zack Snyder's thing. If you ever watch Watchmen or Sucker Punch, he does he does that well. He does these stylish scenes that feel like they're straight from from the comic book and everything well. So I'll say that this movie has that going for it. Also, I did like some of the dialogue, even though, like I said earlier, with characters like Lex Luthor trying to say all this philosophical stuff and talk about gods and stuff. Uh, the dialogue, like some of that dialogue, I did not like, and I think that I think like it felt like they were trying to sort of push this sort of I like it's kind of hard to explain it, but it's sort of like they tried to. I think the best way for me to say this is they went about some of the dialogue too heavy-handed. Like you didn't really have to sort of push this idea of okay, these superheroes are kind of like gods, are kind of like gods amongst men. They're like these larger than life characters, and I think that this movie sort of like pushes that concept to its limit. It really does. But some of the dialogue in this movie, like I said, I liked it. And like if you hang on like the first time I saw this movie, I was hanging on basically every word a character said. I hung on to every freaking word. And I feel like while some people said the motivations for some of the characters in this movie, they're not clear, I thought for the most part most of them were, with the exception of maybe Lex Luthor. I could kind of see why some people kind of didn't understand, uh, his motivation, his main motivation in the movie, which I felt was like, okay, he's afraid of Superman. He feels powerless. He saw what happened to Metropolis, and he says like he mentions this story about his, I believe his father or his great grandfather to the senator. And like if you really pay attention to to what he says to like the senator and his conversation with the senator about having a deterrent and everything, because again, I just think that Lex Luthor was scared in this movie, that he was afraid, that he was fearful for his life, that he wanted power, that he didn't want to feel powerless. Like even that speech that he makes at even that speech that he makes at his party, which again, I'm not spoiling anything because a lot of this stuff was in the trailer, but I kind of think like Lex Luthor's motivations were kind of clear to me personally. I got it. Maybe because I've seen the movie twice, but even seeing the movie once, I was able to kind of piece it together. The only thing I will say, because I read a comment the other night that kind of had me think, okay, that kind of doesn't make sense. I understand I understand why Lex Luthor wants Superman out the way, But why does he want Batman out the way? I get Superman because he's this alien with immense power, but why Batman? It just didn't really add up to me. But overall, I thought that the characters, some of them, like it felt like at times these characters were human, and then at times they did not feel like human characters. They just felt kind of like, I don't want to say like wooden characters, but they just didn't feel real. Like for example, when Ben Affleck is Bruce Wayne in this movie, he feels like a real human character. But once he turns into Batman and like starts talking to Superman in this movie, and he's saying things like "Do you bleed?" and stuff like that, it just he no longer feels like a character at that point. And I feel like the dialogue kind of suffers at certain points in this movie. But overall, I thought that overall, I thought that dialogue was hit or miss, I guess you can say. And I thought the characters were, I guess you could say they were okay, but they definitely weren't perfect. And again, I couldn't really feel attached to any of these characters, especially to what happens, by the end of the movie, what happens to a certain character. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything. I couldn't really feel attached to some of these characters, again, because of the fact that some of them didn't really feel human. Wonder Woman, she definitely felt like a human character in this movie, though. And I will say, I did not like what they kind of did, what Zack Snyder did with Batman. And at this point now, I'm gonna just try to give you guys a few more thoughts on different sections of the film without spoiling it, and then because I really just want to hurry up and sort of get into spoilers so I can talk freely because I'm trying to gloss over everything. But where was I? Kind of threw myself off there. But I'll just say this. I did not like what they did with Batman. And for those of you who haven't seen the movie, uh, this Batman kills. I'll just leave it at that. He kills. And like that really breaks from tradition of what Batman is. And I think a lot of people, including myself, would be kind of more acceptable to Batman killing if we had more time to like live with the character, more time to understand his motivation for killing. And I think that just has a lot to do with the decision to introduce Batman in this film and not have a solo film for Batman first. But I did not like the fact that they had Batman killing, and then the whole point of this movie, obviously the whole reason the whole reason a lot of people have gone to see this movie is to see Batman and Superman duke it out, and that the way that they get to that fight, I did not like it. I did not like the way that they got to that fight. I did not like the way that they had. I like I like how that I like how they had Lex Luthor trying to manipulate uh, Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent, Superman, into into sort of hating each other, I guess, and wanting to come at each other. I like that sort of aspect of it, but then it's like the execution was kind of poorly. But to sum up, I thought this movie was okay. It definitely wasn't as terrible as a lot of critics say that it was. Again, I realized it had its problems. A lot of people said the movie was too dark and it was humorless, and I disagree that it was humorless. Especially my first time watching this movie, there were scenes that a lot of people were laughing at, and this is one hilarious scene uh, at the end. But I felt like there were a lot of times that I was literally laughing at this movie for the wrong reasons. Like there were like certain scenes in this movie where I don't think they were trying to be funny, but it just made me laugh anyway. And I think that's a bad thing when a movie does that for you. Like Green Lantern, there's certain parts of Green Lantern that like everyone I was with was laughing at, and these parts in that movie weren't supposed to be funny. And it's the same thing here, and I think it has a lot to do with Jesse Eisenberg's performance. But I think there was a lot of humor in this movie. Well, not a lot, not as much as Marvel, but I think there was humor in this movie. So to say that the movie is humorless, I think that's inaccurate. I think there was some humor in this movie, and I think there's some fun to be had in this movie. But again, I feel like this movie, it definitely had its problems. I'm gonna try to go ahead and sum this up for you guys because I don't think I'm gonna have time to do a spoiler discussion for this movie. Hopefully, if I have time to do a separate video, I can do that. If not, then maybe some other day I could try to shoot a video really getting into the movie a lot more without having to gloss over it. But overall, I thought the movie it set out to do a lot of things, and it didn't do any particular thing, you know, exceptionally. Uh, Again, like I said before, Zack Snyder and his like the way that he shot the movie and everything. The movie is stylish. I think you'll have fun with the movie. It does take a while to sort of set up everything. The movie might feel a little slow to some people at times because it takes time to get to that Batman versus Superman fight that everybody is looking for, and it clearly shows in this movie that DC was trying to clearly play catch up, and it shows because the movie it doesn't really have. It felt like there's not enough time for the movie itself to breathe because there's just so many different plot points and so many different things they're trying to set up that the movie like it doesn't really feel like a cohesive thing. It just feels like several different movies. Like I said earlier, it just feels like several different movies mashed in together, like mashed together to make this one big long movie that's even longer than what we already have gotten with the the theatric release of this movie. So it's kind of I will say I was a little disappointed with this movie because I was hoping that I would be swept away with all the performances of the cast, and for the most part, like I said, the cast it did great with the exception of Jesse Eisenberg. I mean, they weren't exceptional or anything, but I think this movie it just had so many problems, and I can kind of see why people hate this movie. Like it's not one of those cases where it's like Man of Steel where I don't think a lot of critics understood the movie, or I don't think a lot of people were open to the interpretation of Superman at first, but it's like this movie you can't really defend it. It has its problems. It's not as it's not as strong as the first movie because the first movie was just trying to tell one story. This movie is trying to just do so many other things at once. And I just feel like DC rushing things did sort of hurt this movie, having to introduce the Justice League, and then I don't think this movie really set up Jesse Eisenberg as well as it probably should have. Well, Lex Luthor anyway. Like I can't really call that character Lex Luthor because that's not the really like the Lex Luthor that I know. Like I'm not one of those people that aren't open to new interpretations of characters and different tweaks to different characters. But I just did not like Jesse Eisenberg like most people. I did not like this new uh, this new character that they made, Jesse Eisenberg's Alexander Luthor Jr. Since it's technically not the Lex Luthor we know, but I just didn't like this new character. But overall, I would have to give this movie a 3 out of 5. Like I said, I can't really go into spoilers for this video because I don't even have enough time to sort of get into all the things I want to get into because of time restraints right now on me. So let me know what you guys think about Batman versus Superman, and I'll see you guys next time. This has been a Negro Shotty. I'm out of here. Peace.